Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this expert talk. And today I'm so excited to invite and to host Gabriella Barone here with us. And she's going to talk about inner child healing, a subject that I am very, very curious to hear all about. So, Gabriella, hello, welcome. Please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about yourself and also about inner child healing.
Yeah, do you want me to go ahead and share my screen?
Go for it.
All right. Just because this is a bit more, okay, I was going to press present there. This is where technology kicks my butt a little bit. Okay. Do I press more? No. Oh, share screen. Okay. There we go. Okay. Can you guys all see? I think
Yeah.
so. Okay. So present. All right. Just because it's a bit easier for me since I have it all lined up. So this is about me. So these are all the little like credentials and all the things that people think make up me, which is I got a bachelor degree in psychology. I'm a certified life coach, yoga instructor, Reiki practitioner, all of those fun things. But when I talk about inner child healing, the thing that I believe is most important is that I have experience with it. And that's what I look for in all of my coaches with anything. Because the things that I've learned in here, yes, they help me with the practical things, like how to properly coach somebody and how to properly counsel someone. But I have experience actually working with my inner child. And I always say that the program I created and the work that I do, it is directed to the person who I was at the end of the day. Like it's directed to me a few years ago when I was like, oh, I heard about inner child healing and I have no idea where to start. I have no idea what to do. So that's pretty much about me. And then when we get into like inner child healing, I think that it's important for people to know kind of like where, what they need. So a lot of times that what I see in people is unhealthy relationships. That's a big one because inner child healing is so closely related to attachment styles. I don't know about you, but for me, I was deep in the anxious attachment world. I was, just feeling I had the trust issue. So the need to be around my partner or to know what's going on. When the trust issues run that deep, it just takes down your own self-confidence, your own self-worth, your own like assurance within. So that's something that I see a lot of the time. And then shame and guilt are so intertwined with like our unmet needs and wants because as children, a lot of times we're kind of shamed for what we feel like we need and what we want and all of those things. Hi, Amy. um, so yeah, oftentimes for people struggling with this whole entire list, and people who want to feel that self-trust and letting go. Again, forgiveness is such a big part of inner child healing, like just the feeling of forgiving not only the people in your past, like your caregivers, your parents, the bully, but also forgiving your past self because we can look back when we go really deep into inner child work, looking at our adaptive child, which I'll get to in a bit, we can feel a little bit of resentment, thinking, oh, I've created all these really not so good coping mechanisms because I was so hurt. Now I'm bringing it into adulthood, and that could bring a lot of resentment. So I like to focus a lot on forgiveness as well because we just need to have a little compassion when we go through this weird journey of life.
Mm.
So pretty much who is your inner child? I'm gonna make this box a little smaller. So I always like to give the nice psychological term first. So he or she is simply part of your subconscious. They were the ones that picked up all the messages and all the cues before you were able to be, that full wise adult, understanding and processing and learning not to take things personally and all of that. But if you're like me and you like to just like get to the point and know the real term, like who really is it? Your inner child is really just your authentic self. It's your true self. It's your creative self, your flowing self. It's, in my opinion, any past version of you that needs nurturing, reparenting, and unconditional love. A lot of times we see the 5-year-old self and think, oh, that's the only inner child, you know, because that's the picture of it. But this is simply from my learnings and from my perspective on my healing journey, is the inner child is also, you know, you at 16 when you had your first friendship betrayal, and that hurt, and you were so like naive in a way, and so like uncut and so raw in that moment that you still were holding on to those childlike tendencies, and then you're hurt, you know, and we need to go back and heal that version. And then we're also the version of us at, you know, 23 that had our first real deep heartbreak. For me, the inner child is living within us all the time. So yes, inner child work is going back to the 5-year-old self, but it's also going back to, you know, 10-year-old you, 16-year-old you, 23-year-old you, yesterday you, that was feeling any type of like hurt or pain that just needs a little bit of love and caring for. And then this is what I focus on a lot in my program, because we hear like the inner child, and that's such an umbrella term. So like I said before, the inner child is just the very untainted, pure version of you. But the next two are probably my favorite, because that's the work that we really have to do. Yes, we need to do the work connecting to the inner child, which is like finger painting and having fun and moving our bodies in this like free flowing creative way. But then the not so fun work is jumping into the wounded child and the adapted child. So to kind of meet the inner family, the wounded child is basically the child, the kid like you that has experienced hurt or pain that you carry with you. So this is when you're a kid and you're really excited because you're wearing your new favorite shoes, and then you go to school and the kids just make fun of you for it. Like, those look so silly and those are so goofy. And we know kids can be so harsh and they don't know what they're doing, but that can create a wound. And then we have our adaptive child, which is my favorite one, the younger you that created defense mechanisms and unhealthy, typically, behaviors out of fight or flight in order to feel safe. So the adaptive child in that situation jumps in to protect the wounded child who just got made fun of for their sneakers, in a very, very basic explanation or example. And they say, oh, I don't want you to feel that hurt or that pain anymore. I don't want to be made fun of. So the adaptive child could do something like, I'm just gonna wear the plain white sneakers. I don't want to wear the cool light up ones anymore. I don't want to be made fun of. So the adaptive child just comes in, they don't feel safe because they just felt the wound. So they jump in, try to protect, and then they either conform, or maybe they lash out, or, you know, there's so many different ways that the adaptive child could react to pain, but that's just one example. And then the wise adult is the person that you are today, or the person that you are trying to become, who's ready to reparent and love and nurture. So oftentimes I see people kind of in between, let's see my names, in between here. So kind of stuck between adaptive child and the wise adult. So just in that same kind of toxic behavioral patterns and those cycles that we're taking from our childhood into adulthood. But then we also have the wise adult that's like, wait, but we know we probably shouldn't be acting that way. We probably shouldn't be throwing a tantrum to our romantic partner right now. Like, maybe that's not what we're supposed to do. But it can be really hard to make that transition from the adaptive child to the wise adult. And these are just some fun ways that I like to connect to my inner child. I always suggest that people have a picture when they do the work, because at least how I've seen it from my experiences, sometimes it can be really hard to make a change for you, because again, all the childhood stuff, you could feel maybe shame about that. You could feel guilt about doing something for you. But when we have that picture of our younger self, it's almost like we're doing it for someone else. We're doing it for that little kid. We're doing it for that past version of us. So it gives that like motivation and the encouragement to say like, no, I do need to be dedicated, and I do need to like put my all into this, because that kid deserves it. even if we're struggling within ourselves and feeling like we deserve it as we are now, we can look at that picture and say, of course they deserve it. They were so innocent and pure. Did they deserve to get hurt? No. So let's fix it. Dedicated creative play or any type of like fun games or physical play. I remember with my brother, we would play this like weird handball, dodgeball, baseball combination of a game. And that's something that I always picture when I think of like connecting to the inner child. It's playing a weird game that you just randomly created in your backyard that has no significance. You were just doing it to have fun. You weren't doing it to get your body to look a certain way. You weren't doing it for the outcome. You were just doing it to do it, you know? Just like living. And that's really what the inner child is about. It's about just living and enjoying it. Eating food. I'm a big foodie, so anything with food, I'm like, oh, that brings me to my grandma's house. That brings me to, I don't know, my favorite place as a kid. And then going back to your safe space, which could be so many different places for different people. Really depends. It can, at least for me, my grandparents' house was always like the safe space because that's where you have the most fun, and that's where, you know, you're just like treated, at least for me, treated like a little princess, you know. So it just makes you feel safe and secure. So when I'm feeling difficulty going back to like the wounded child or the adaptive child, I always find it important to have that safe space in your mind to say, okay, you were safe at some point as a child. Like just go there, take a rest, don't overwhelm yourself, don't bombard yourself, and just like kind of come back to you. Oh, and then these were just some journal prompts if someone wanted to take a picture of the screen that I think are very helpful dealing with the inner child. So I'll just leave that up and then we can have a conversation. So I'll leave it up for like a few seconds. I'm sure everyone has gotten the picture by now, and then I'll stop sharing the screen, which I need to figure out. Maybe pause share. Stop share. Okay, so that's just kind of like a quick thing, but I'm open to having like, you know, more conversation, like talk with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this and for kind of making sense of a lot of terms that we kind of heard before and maybe not necessarily, maybe we're not on the same page as, you know, as we are now. But I think it's really so interesting. And of course, in a minute, we will switch off the recording so that people can ask their own questions. But, you know, from a lot of the things that I see in my own work, it's that thing of, you know, the coping mechanism. I now act in the only way that I know how to act. I don't know how to switch it off. And I don't even feel safe to try and switch it off because I'm following what I've always done. So even when people start to recognize that their behavior as an adult is actually coping mechanism and is not necessarily, you know, supporting them in where they want to be, it's there's a lot of fear about, you know, letting that version of themselves go. I guess maybe that's, you know, the right way of saying it, but letting that version go and becoming the adult. And so I'm
100%.
wondering, yeah, what is your, you know, how do you deal with that when this kind of challenges?
Yeah, so this has been like the biggest topic of the past like 2 months of my life, which is grieving things that aren't just in the box of grief, you know, like not just grieving someone who is past, but grieving past versions of you, past places, past experiences. So that's been helpful for me. Just allowing myself to go through that process of, you know, past versions of me that have been hurt and accepting, oh, that was very painful, but let me grieve that version because I need to let them go. I always think of like, you want to build on such a strong foundation. And this is just like the image that always comes to me is like a wonky Jenga board. When you just have a bunch of like wounds in there that you never actually process or, you know, heal from, there's going to be so many gaps in it. And you can't keep building and trying to level up and step into like, you know, your highest self, your best self, if you have all these gaps. So I think for me, it's going back and filling all of those gaps in the past so that I can just flow more naturally and where I am now. And I think a part of that is just like feeling feelings instead of thinking feelings. Like feel it in the body. Don't try to analyze it or think about it or, just like when we do feel a wound from the past, when we're in a safe space doing this kind of work, not in a moment where we're like full-blown triggered, but when we're in a safe space doing the work is like sitting with it and understanding how that feels in the body and then letting it go. And with any type of like, writing, physical movement, shaking, jumping, things like that.
Mm. It's really for me, I think it's really fascinating. It's all of that because we keep hearing things like you said, right? Bring that picture and look at that little you, and
Mm-hmm.
that it brings a lot of compassion because it is like even your own child, even. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess a lot of the time people might feel a little bit um, confused, thinking I didn't know how to treat that child in a loving and compassionate way.
Yeah.
I do it for myself as an adult, and how do I then go back and repair some of the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I've had with this little child?
Mm-hmm. So basically how to reparent a little bit, is that kind of
Yes.
the yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we went there.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Um, the way I see it is in a moment of, you're not in a safe space mentally or emotionally. Like you just got hit with a trigger and it's like, uh-oh, what am I supposed to do now? Because you're so used to running on autopilot of, oh, I felt a trigger and now I'm just going to react. And then I have to face the consequences. And it's taking that second in between feeling triggered and reacting. And there's so much space there where then you get to respond instead of react, where I had this one moment where I was super triggered, just like, oh, I feel myself getting like fired up. And I went to the pool and I live in Florida. So that's why I went to the pool outside. So I went outside and I just closed my eyes and I was like, what am I actually feeling? Like, am I really mad, so mad at this situation that shouldn't make me this mad? Or am I mad about something from the past that actually really hurt my feelings? And I kept kind of like flowing back, not like analyzing and trying to get to the bottom of it, not being frustrated, but just feeling like, I'm going to be curious about this instead of frustrated. And I genuinely want to know, like, where is this coming from? And I just like flowed deeper and deeper back into my memory. I put on like very soothing music to calm my nervous system, first of all, to create that safer space. And yeah, it was something from my past that I'm super mad about still, that I didn't realize was still like such a core memory.
Mm.
So I was able to to then sit with that person. I always picture in my head during like a reparenting session for myself is I picture that version of me who was really upset as a kid, or any past version of me that I know is the reason why I'm so triggered in this moment. So I go back and sit with that person and I try
Mm.
to just say, what do you need? As if I'm watching a movie of that situation play out. I say, what do you need? And then I go and I sit with them. Usually I'm a physical touch person. So it's usually like a big hug and just like, hey, it's okay to cry. Like you can cry, feel your feelings. And it's almost like I'm channeling that person in this moment. Like I am telling that person, hey, it's okay to cry. And then I let it out in this version of me. So it's like that version is being healed through me. If that kind of makes sense. I know it's a lot in the visual mind, but that's how I work.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for the presentation and for
Of
actually,
course.
bringing it to us. Before I switch off the recording and open the floor to the viewers, um, um, what is something, a message or something that you want to leave people watching? What do you want to leave them with so that they um, yeah, so that they can sit with it or understand it a little bit better?
Oh, there's so many things. Uh, I think the first thing that came to my mind was curiosity. just like be curious about your past because you are safe now. You don't have to be so scared to go into your past or, to go into your feelings because you are safe now. You aren't that kid. You aren't the wounded child anymore. You are the wise adult. So just be curious. And that's gonna, when you move with curiosity, it's gonna naturally give you the answers that you need in order to fill those wounds and to heal. I think that's something. Yeah.
Thank you. That is amazing. I have so many more questions, but I guess I'll keep them to myself for now, and I'll open the floor, like I said. Gabriella, thank you so much for being here with us
Thank
today,
you.
sharing a little bit of everything that you have to offer. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.